I invite the presenter of the technical section 5, the first presenter, Dr. Divya Johnson from Kerala.
Yes, ma'am.
Divya Johnson?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah. Would you like to present your PPT?
No, ma'am, I don't have a PPT right now.
Oh, okay then. You take 10 minutes for your presentation, and the
Yes, sure,
question
ma'am.
session goes for 2 minutes. Okay,
Okay.
you can
Yes, ma'am.
start.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. Respected chair and dear fellow participants. The title of my presentation is Introspecting Life Casting Through Humans of Bombay. So to my presentation, the public and the private have intermingled in today's digital era through various social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, live casting, and so on. As a result, live writing has gained momentum among netizens as people narrate their lives and share their experiences through digital space. The constructed life is created by the self enters the discourse of the life writing in the digital era. So the present paper is an autonomous reading of the select posts from Humans of Bombay as it helps to explore the life of women in the contemporary world and intends to analyze how they represent themselves and personalize their experiences and present their real selves. Through the analysis, it could be stated that status of women have undergone changes by time, and majority of women have the courage to break themselves free from the clutches of society. It helps to discover the violence, abuse, discrimination, and social challenges that women are undergoing even in this modern era. Life casting could be developed as a genre of e-literature as people share their life in digital platforms through the frame, though the frame is the same. And Humans of Bombay catalogs a wide range of lives of the people of the city of Bombay. And realizing the capabilities women possess and coming forward to fight for their position requires realization followed by exercising the power within them. The idea of self government is simply self power or self authority, which is a part of personal autonomy. Women have the ability and power to speak for themselves and to stand for their rights, and problems arise only when they choose not to exercise these powers. The idea of self defining is the first step, and it helps towards attaining empowerment. So, self defining is a process of knowing, understanding, and appreciating self along with resistance against those forces, sorry, forces that threaten one's identity. Once women are self defined, they would automatically identify the power within them. Copying what traditionally is being followed without voicing one's opinions is the way women have lived their lives. It is only through realizing the potential and power they behold would they come out fearless from oppressions of the world. And when one says that a person is self-governing, it means that he is in control of his actions and choices, and actions to be valid and legitimate. And a self-governing person faces minimal interference in his actions and choices. And interferences can be of psychological or physical nature and can originate from within the individual as easily as they can from without. And they include the familiar offenders of autonomy, such as manipulation and subjection to the dominant will of another, as well as internal phenomena native to the individual, such as captivity to desires or physical impulses, psychological neurosis, or weakness of the will. For persons who suffer in these respects, lack the physical ability, emotional conviction, or volitional fortitude to be in control of their choices, actions, and will, no matter how fervently they might wish otherwise. So, an autonomous individual may heed the advice, even the directives of others, and her choices and actions may be inspired by a source other than herself. But no one must decide or act for the individual, and the opinions of others must not be the wellspring from which the individual judges her choices and actions to be valid and legitimate. So, in the select post, Women belonging to various cultural background in different categories are chosen, and what predominantly connects them is that they exercise their self-power or authority. It could be identified that women out of their miseries emerged powerful and became self-governed. And the post I've chosen is a lady who has had to suffer from acid attack, and gives a picture of to what extent violence can go. An acid attack against women is a burning issue in the present scenario and is the most heinous form of gender-based violence against women. And the woman in this particular post comes from a family where they cannot afford to send her to school. And she supports her family by working as a housemaid and still has a dream within her to be a big designer someday. And her life changed in 2002 when she visited her sister's house, where she met her sister's brother in law who proposed to her. She was just 16 and rejected the proposal. Her mother was there to support her. But then the darker days began since then, and the man started cornering her wherever she went. And she was firm in her decision. And one day he poured a glass of acid onto her, saying, "If I can't have you, no one can." And this statement shows how people take the choices of women or women as a whole for granted. So there is no justification that can be drawn from the man's action. So this particular post is enough to understand how extreme the level of violence can be. Today, the number of acid victims is increasing, and the majority of the case of women as the victims. And this violence fractures the self and takes from women their sense of self-respect. The feminist literature on violence against women documents the particular role that violence and threat of violence play in unfairly disempowering and limiting women. So the lady here was a housemaid, and she had to support her family after her father's death. And the brutal attack on her changed her life. She was shattered. Society kept on saying that there was no point in spending money on her. Even though this acid attack changed her whole life, this woman showed self courage. Breaking the wall, she came out more self-empowered. Her power and belief in herself is evident when she says, I have gone from being afraid of going out or covering my face to wearing jeans and a t-shirt. I am financially independent and providing for my son. When sometimes his friends make fun of me, he tells them all how I am a survivor, and that is my validation. So every time I look in the mirrors, that is what I see: a mother, a survivor, a warrior, everything but a victim. And we could see that even access to education was denied to her due to her poor economic condition, because family couldn't afford her to send to school. Only her brothers went to school, and she remembers sitting with her older brother's book after he had done his homework, absorbing everything she could. So we could see how she was chosen not to be given education over her brothers. So see, education is an enabling and transformative right, as pointed out by the Committee on CESCR, Economic, Social and Cultural Right. So it can be variously classified as economic right, social right, and a cultural right. So it's also about civil right and political rights, since it is central to the full and effective realization of those rights as well. Here she is denied her right to education due to probably because of a poor economic condition. Anyway, after the acid attack, it was hard for her to be back to live a normal life. But then the family was in full support, though the society kept on saying, people would tell my family that there was no point spending money on me and I was ruining the family's name. So this is a typical attitude which we could see in the society, and the society shows they always blame the shows that the society always blame the victim. They never support them, especially if the victim is a girl, and the particular girl in this post is blamed for what had happened. So gender discrimination is yet another factor that can affect one's confidence level, and women are victims to such discrimination, which restrain them from fully exercising their power. Being able to follow one's passion under such circumstances indeed requires a lot of courage. And considering the next post, we see a girl who was brutally tortured by her father, she was timid and was not confident, and she emerged brave over time. The girl suppressed her feelings and refused to fight back. Actually, what provoked her was the late knowing of her father's multiple affairs. But the bubble burst when she found that her father was having an affair, and the realization of affairs was a shock to her. But still, she showed courage to inform her mother, who always wanted a perfect family. The girl emerged courageous and made her mother to put an end to the relationship. And we could see the closing lines. She says, "It's time to stand up and speak up for what is right, even if it is against your own family." And that shows a bitter experience which made her realize the power within herself. So it could be identified how domination of men works in a patriarchal society. The girl child and the mother are brutally beaten up by the father, and they are never allowed to speak. Here, the victims resist themselves to please the outer world, which is yet another feature of being in a particular society. And she says, "I thought it was okay because we looked like a picture perfect family, my father, mother, younger brother, and me." See, women are even murdered as a result of deviation from the conventional roles thrust upon them. Here we see domestic abuse as the main threat. No one but two victims who are constantly being silenced. The father figure, who is supposed to be the protector, turns out to be a villain, and the girl child is being beaten up by him with bells and shoes, and she is even locked up in a dark room. And there is no particular reason for which he does this. There was no reason he could beat me for being. He says, the girl says, there is no reason for he could beat me for being naughty or not doing my housework. It is evident from this post that women was used as means to put out the stress that men underwent, and they were not considered even as humans, rather mere objects or an outlet to free one's anger and pain. So the result of such domestic abuse is one is forced to be silent, hence with time they become timid, underconfident, and like. The reason why women are afraid to open up is basically because of such constant violence they are exposed to from a very smaller age, and they are never allowed to speak aloud. And next is a post where a girl aspired to be in National Service College. She had the position to serve and protect. The patriarchal norm that the women are not too fit to be in such a job affected her in every stage towards achieving the goal, and her right to choice was constantly being restricted. She was always questioned, "Can you do this? Won't you be afraid of danger?" And the post depicts a courageous woman who dreamt of serving the National Fire Service despite criticism. And the woman here had the support from her father, with which she managed to overcome her difficulties. And she says, "First of all, my father was my biggest motivator. He made sure I fought for what I wanted. And I was a woman trying to make it work in a world that was built for and run by men, which was not easy feat. They took time to get used to the fact that I was not dressed up in a costume, that the uniform I wore was mine and very much real." So the post gives a picture of how society restrict women from dreaming big. The lady here dreamed to serve and protect, and the uniform and what it represents always fascinated her. So this strong passion led her to join the National Fire Service College, and definitely she had discouraging comments, and but then she shows how men exercise their power over women. And early times onwards, women were silenced within home with their rights to work, though their work was denied. The only work they were allowed to do was the works or the domestic chores. And by analyzing the select posts in the light of personal autonomy, it could be concluded that each of the women were restricted of their autonomy for a long time. Each one had to undergo challenges. For some, it was physical violence, and for some, it was mental violence. So the realization of their self-power and the urge to end their sufferings finally resulted in their emancipation. About the values of these light stories of women in the present generation, it could be seen as an eye opener in the modern society about the persistent suffering women face even in this current contemporary society. So the women in these select posts possess power to excel, but though the society tried to suppress them, they voluntarily accepted their position of isolation for a long time. What they needed was just a support or push to break it to eventually be free. So their realization of injustice and their rights lead to their better and happier life. And after taking a comprehensive overview of these posts, The emerging fact is that unless women are not fully provided personal autonomy, they would end up being just victims all of their life. So that's my presentation. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Divya Johnson. A neat and wonderful presentation about the present scenario of women and their self defining and self governing status, and also their empowerment in their choice and their eternal state of life are neatly presented. And I appreciate Dr. Divya Johnson.
Thank you.
Any questions from the audience side? I don't find any questions in the chat box. So, any questions? So, okay. Shall we move on to the next participant? Dr. K. Ponneri Lakshmi from Andhra Pradesh. Dr. Ponneri Lakshmi? Dr. Ponneri Lakshmi is present. Yeah. I invite Dr. K. Ponneri Lakshmi from Andhra Pradesh. Would you like to present your screen? Ponneri Lakshmi, please unmute. Is there any problem for Ponneri Lakshmi to connect? Ponneri Lakshmi, Dr. Ponneri Lakshmi, please unmute. So you're not audible.
She says that she's not able to unmute.
Oh,
Hello. Please unmute yourself. The visitor.
so admit sir, shall I call the next participant?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. There is a third one. Hafizullah Saik from Srinagar, Kashmir. Is the participant here? Hafizullah. Hafizullah Sheikh. So I don't find this participant too. Sir, admit sir, shall I go for the other participant? Priya, a research scholar from Haryana.
Yes, ma'am, I'm present here.
Ah, okay, pa. I invite you, pa, to the line.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone present here in this virtual conference. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Priya. I'm a research scholar. I'm doing my PhD in English from Maharishi Dayanand University, Rohtak, Haryana. Now, I would like to start my paper presentation. The title of my paper is Analyzing the Role of Ecolinguistics in Amitav Ghosh, The Hungry Tide. What I have done in this paper, I have analyzed the hungry tide from ecolinguistic perspective. So I'm going to start the paper presentation now. Ecolinguistics has now become a very important part of literary studies. It emerged in the 1990s as a new paradigm of linguistic research, broadening social linguistics to consider not only the social context but also the ecological context. Michael Halliday's 1990 speech, New Ways of Meaning, the challenge to applied linguistics, offered the model for linguists to focus on ecological context and the consequences of language. So we should focus on the ecological as well as linguistic perspectives. That is my main point in this paper. Many writers have become environment conscious and they use literature as an important tool for highlighting the environmental issues and realizing the same fundamental truth. Amitav Ghosh, the famous Indian English writer, has presented both the destructive and constructive aspects of natural environment in his writings. The objective of my paper is to analyze his novel The Hungry Tide, published in the year 2004, from ecological as well as linguistic perspective. This cross-word book prize-winning novel set in Sundarbans revolves around the lives of three main characters. There are three major characters who are at the center, who are at the core of this novel. Piali Roy, a young biologist who travels to Sundarbans in search of a rare dolphin. Then there is Fakir, an illiterate fisherman. And then Kanai Dutt is here, who is a translator and businessman from Delhi. And as the novel progresses, Kanai Dutt works as a bridge between Pia and Fakir because they are not able to understand each other's language. And this paper aims to connect the human stories with the vast story of environmental effects and at the same time acknowledging that spoken and written language, while limited, plays a very, very important role in the universe. Now, we can see in the contemporary times, nature has been presented as a central force in many noteworthy writings, in many artistic works, and there has been a lot of devastation in the topography of environment. And recent example we can see in the form of COVID-19 pandemic. The change in the socio-economic conditions of the world has completely changed the point of views of human beings. This field, that is ecolinguistics, has emerged as an interdisciplinary field of linguistics and environmental studies. Uh, von Humboldt, Wilhelm von Humboldt, is considered to be the first European linguist who identified the human language as a rule governed system rather than a mere repertoire of words. His works on comparative linguistics and his ideas on interdependency between language and the world can be seen or can be regarded as the starting point of ecolinguistics, which later on integrated into the linguistic relativity hypothesis in North America. The term ecolinguistics first appeared in The Ecology of Language, the book published in 1972, where Hogan defines language ecology as, I quote, the study of interaction between any given language and its environment. So, this is the study of interaction between any given language and the environment. Uh, so, in the novel, I have analyzed that the environmental setting influences the language of characters. So, language of characters is shaped by the ecological factors or due to the ecological setting. Indian authors did not remain silent in this particular field, and they have analyzed the issues very seriously in their prominent works. Indian English authors like Amitav Ghosh, R.K. Narayan, Raja Rao, and Kamala Makandya have been very conscious about the environmental components. And the famous novel Hungry Tide, written by Ghosh, depicts nature as a background in their works. Through Pia and Kanai's experience, these are the two central characters in the novel. Amitav Ghosh, through Pia and Kanai's experiences, proposes that spoken and written language is an inadequate means of communication, and especially when compared to visual language. And in this case, in this novel, this language is the language of fear. The fear due to tiger killing, due to tidal floods, and due to other devastations caused by environment. Pia can talk to Fokir through non-verbal means because they are not able to understand each other's language. But she accepts the idea that it is not necessary to know a common language in order to complete her research work because visual cues can be more effective means for communicating with others, and they are using the non-verbal means for communicating with each other, like flashcards, drawings, and paintings. She can talk to Fokir through non-verbal means, and Fokir helps her in this work. Kanai undergoes transformation when he comes to know about the limitations of spoken language. Um, Ghosh uses language as a tool that I have focused in this paper. That Ghosh uses language as a tool, and he presents nature as a main character, as a protagonist of the novel, in narrating and describing the human nature relationship. The characters are influenced by physical environment. This can be clearly seen in their behavior, in their way of talking. I would like to quote Buell, who has discussed this point in environmental imagination. He says, I quote, the main feature of environmental literature is that nature is not merely a setting or backdrop, but an actual factor in the plot, that is, a character, and sometimes even a protagonist. So, nature is not a mere background in Amitav Ghosh writing. Nature is a main character. We can say it is a protagonist. This is particularly obvious in nature writing, environmental writing. Quote close. So the novelist has raised his voice against the mistreatment with nature through Pia's voice, through Pia Leroy's voice. He has raised important issue against the mistreatment with nature. When she sees the villagers killing the tiger, uh, she says, I'm not going, I quote, I have taken these lines from The Hungry Tide itself, where Pia is saying, I'm not going to run off like a coward. If you are not going to do anything about this, then I will. And Fokir will. And I know he will. Quote close. But Fokir presents his view of the event that whenever a tiger comes into human establishment, it needs to be killed. So this is a necessity of time that it needs to be killed. The tiger killing here raises an important question, the most obvious discussion related to the topic of conservation. And we can make some parallels between this novel, The Hungry Tide, and Kit Wright's Song of the Whale. I would like to quote some lines from Kit Wright's poem, Song of the Whale. Great whale crying for your life, crying for your kind, I know. How we would use your dying, lipstick for our painted faces, polish for our shoes. So this part of the poem shows how man uses or how man chooses lipstick and polish at the course of life, at the course of tiger killing. So Ghosh has made a prediction in the novel that very soon other species of fishes and other plants or animals will also become extinct. So the main objective is to make readers aware of the sensitivity of this place, and this can be observed in the novel where he links the character's language to the fear of the characters in their physical environment in Sundarbans, because they are impacted because of the environmental conditions, because of the things going on in the Sundarbans, tiger killing, tidal floods, and other things. So, using positive discourse analysis, he has explored nature writing and forms of language around the world. To conclude, ecolinguistics has bright future in coming days, and research activities in this field have grown strongly. Earlier, it was not a separate field, but now the field is specially characterized by studies in language policy, and it has started to move beyond its initial research agenda through integrating various types of topics and approaches. As an emerging subcategory of linguistics, there are many possibilities within ecolinguistics for encouraging future interdisciplinary research, because we can connect language and literature. So, for encouraging future interdisciplinary research on the mutual interactions among human beings, society, language, and natural environment. The Mother Earth is facing a lot of environmental problems like pollution, climate change, global warming, tidal floods, loss of biodiversity, etc. And these directly affect the lifestyles of human beings. In recent times, COVID-19 pandemic can be seen in this regard, or can be analyzed in this regard. It may be associated with serious environmental issue. So making use of language, Ghosh engages with the cause of ecosystem and warns that the utilization of nature over a course of time will bring an eruption of nature. So it is not the responsibility of writers only who raise the ecological issues in their writings, but it is also the responsibility of every individual, every person to protect the environment. Glotfelty raises a question, I quote, how can we solve environmental problems unless we start thinking about them? So first of all, we need to think about the topic. After that, we can provide some kind of solution, or any kind of answer to the particular question. Okay, so that's all from my side, and thank you. Ma'am, am I audible?
So any question, poster? Questions from the audience?
Shall I ask you, ma'am? Hello? Yes, I just want to know something. It's not a question actually. So in ecolinguistics, you would be analyzing the language aspects in a particular work, right? Yes, ma'am. It is not a question. I like the idea of ecolinguistics. So it's just just a clarification which I require.
Okay.
Is the language aspect of a particular work that is being analyzed in an ecolinguistic, when you analyze some work from an ecolinguistic perspective?
Yes, ma'am, we can do. Because in this particular novel, there are a number of eco-critical elements, but I have connected them with the language. In which way the characters are behaving, how they are not able to speak because of the fear. So that is language of fear. And why that language of fear exists? Because of the environmental conditions. That tidal floods are there, and they are living in such an environment that they are not able to speak, or their language is showing some symbols of fear. Exactly, we can do that in terms of discourse analysis.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Because always language is shaped because of the environment in which kind of social situation we are living. Okay, ma'am. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
for taking. Any
Hello. Hello.
presented. Okay, I hope that vision. Touch upon Hafiz. Yes, yes. The next participant Hafizullah Said.
Yeah, ma'am. May I present? May I give my presentation? Yes, ma'am.
So
Can you
Ponneri
hear me?
Lakshmi.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. I'm present. Yes, ma'am. I'm present. Am I audible? Hello. Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. But
Hello,
am I
ma'am.
audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes. Okay. Shall I start? Hello.
Yeah. Oh, you are Ponneri Lakshmi.
Yeah, ma'am. I am Ponnar Lakshmi. May I start, or are you asking Hafizullah sir to start? May I start, ma'am? Hello.
You are Ponneri Lakshmi. Sir, you are. Well, but Ponneri Lakshmi is
Yes. Hello.
இப்பதான் ஒருத்தர் வந்திருக்கு. Yeah, it's audible. You can present your paper. Hafizullah.
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I'm Hafizullah Sheikh from Srinagar, Kashmir. Yes, ma'am. The topic I have chosen for today's international conference is COVID-19 pandemic and restricted human interaction, a blessing for environmental conservation. Ma'am, as we know that across the globe, people are just talking about the devastating implications of COVID-19. I have just taken a U-turn and have prepared this paper taking into consideration the blessings of COVID-19 in a very wider ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am? Hello.
But you have to present for 10 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, you are audible.
Hello.
Audible.
Hello,
your presentation should be for 10 minutes. Hafizullah, you are audible.
Ji, ma'am. Okay, okay, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Okay, ma'am. Post. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, ma'am. Yes, I'm hearing you.
Yeah, am I
Yes,
audible?
ma'am, you are audible.
Ma'am, shall I start?
Yeah, you can continue with your presentation. You take 10 minutes to
Okay,
present.
ma'am. Let me come to the point that most policymakers and investors throughout the world wrongly assume.
Yeah, you start. You start.
Yes, ma'am. Hello.
Yes,
You
sir.
can
The chair
present your
says you
paper.
can start.
You are audible. Am I audible?
Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yes, ma'am. Most
You are audible, sir. You can
policymakers,
continue.
ma'am, most policymakers and investors throughout the world wrongly assumed that this pandemic would have only a brief, limited China-specific impact. But now, as an established fact, they realize that it is generating a global hawk and economic disruption that has an enduring impact or even a nail in the coffin for the current era of globalization. Throughout the world, suddenly interconnectedness of goods, services, capital, and people stopped. The first visible sign which US consumers observed came when virus shuttered factories in the China, prompted delays in Apple's delivery of iPhones, and continued as other firms reported interruptions. The world realized that because of so advancement and global connectivity, the impairment developments can more affect the people globally than advantages. Dominated by the pandemic, governments across the globe confronted or are confronting a health crisis, an economic crisis, and a crisis of institutional legitimacy. The pandemic has changed the world and ushered in a new era. What it has done is intensify and expedite underlying trends that made the world confront a new reality. As of yesterday, 11th of February 2000, this 20th of February, as per WHO dashboard, COVID-19 has made a global catastrophic situation that caused some this 678,377 deaths, out of which 404,910,528 confirmed cases. While the COVID-19 pandemic continues to ravage both the health and economy of nations around the world, we are also contending with one of the greatest crises in human history, and that is global environmental change. The change is mainly due to human behaviors and is a major threat to over half of the world's population. Unfortunately, the world's poorest communities, those with the least responsibility for producing environmental decay, are the most affected. If the human population continues to contribute to climate change, rising global temperatures and more natural disasters will plague the world. We would likely encounter more flooding and more droughts with rising sea levels and higher temperatures. Climate scientists have estimated that the Arctic Ocean will be free of ice by summer 2050. As the ice melts, ancient viruses and bacteria from the permafrost soils that are potentially harmful to human beings may be released. To date, there have been several studies regarding the environmental impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Dieter Ham, a professor of energy policy at the University of Oxford, in an article, The Environmental Impacts of the Coronavirus, presented a comprehensive research agenda from the environmental and economic perspective with 5 sets of research questions, including the short-term effects, the long-term economic effects, and some of their potential environmental effects. The globalization, trade, and environmental effects, environmental aspects of intergenerational equity, the balance sheet approach and natural capital, and the permanent effects on behavioral shift. Another article by Mohammed Hassan Shakil, who is associated with School of Business Administration, East Delta University, titled COVID-19 and the Environment, a critical review and research agenda, provided 4 underlying research clusters based on a systematic content analysis of the studies, namely COVID-19 and environmental degradation, COVID-19 and air pollution, COVID-19 and climate or meteorological influences, and COVID-19 and temperatures. In a similar research paper by Alejandro Lopez Peleman, who is associated with the University of Gothenburg, Environment for Development, titled Air Pollution Exposure and COVID-19, a look at mortality in Mexico City using individual level data, provided an insight on air population exposure from the COVID-19 pandemic. So for instance, the lockdown has decreased the electricity demanded by 30% in Italy, India, Germany, and the USA, and by 12 to 20% in France, Germany, Spain, India, and the UK. Additionally, the expenditure of the fuel supply has been decreased by 4% in 2020 as compared to the previous years, 2012-2019. In particular, the global demand for coal fuel has been reduced by 8% in March and April 2020 as compared to the same time in 2019. In terms of harmful emissions, the lockdowns reduced the emissions of nitrous oxide by 20 to 30% in China, Italy, France, Spain, and by 77.3% in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Similarly, the particulate matter level has been reduced from 5 to 15% in Western Europe to 200% in New Delhi, India, which in turn has enhanced the air quality in a never seen manner in recent times. In some places such as New York, USA, carbon dioxide emission was also reduced by 5 to 10%. The water quality in several polluted areas has also been remarkably enhanced. For example, the dissolved oxygen content in Ganga River. The World Health Organization estimated that the outdoor air pollution kills 7 million people each year worldwide, and more than 80% urban population is exposed to unhealthy air. Since people stayed home, these last few months have paid significant improvement in air quality, especially in hard-hit areas like Wuhan, as well as in northern Italy and a number of metropolitan areas throughout the world. In China, emissions of harmful gases and other pollutants dropped 25% at the start of the year 2020, and the quality of air improved up to 11.4% with respect to start of the last year in 337 cities across China. WHO estimated that this change has saved 50,000 lives in China. It is shocking to realize that millions of people die every year because of polluted air, smoke, and soot, which are considered to be slow killers. Now, a particulate matter, PM, called PM 2.5, which is one of the most dangerous pollutants. It is included in group first carcinogens. The 2.5 refers to the particulate size, or about 1/30th of the width of a human hair. PM 2.5 is so small that it can travel from lungs to bloodstream, which will not only cause respiratory problems, but also heart attack, and can also cause early deaths. The World Health Organization has estimated that every year worldwide, more than 4 million deaths occur due to PM 2.5, causing heart diseases, strokes, lung cancer, chronic lung disease, and respiratory infections. The baseline for PM 2.5 in many cities in the world is above 100, measured in micrograms per cubic meter. After COVID-19 induced lockdown, the level of PM 2.5 has decreased drastically, and thousands of lives have been protected from its worst impacts. A major and immediate positive effect of COVID-19 lockdown has been the substantial reduction in air pollution worldwide, notably in major industrialized countries. The closure of factories and transportation networks, the largest emitter of greenhouse gases in the United States, resulted in a 5 to 10% decrease in air pollutants, including carbon dioxide. China's heavy industrial zones also showed a 40% reduction in nitrous oxide. Evidences suggested that the COVID-19 outbreak has resulted in global environmental changes, which can be attributed to the complete or partial lockdown of cities worldwide. In early April 2020, compared to the same period in 2019, it has been found that daily global carbon dioxide emissions decreased by 17% on average. Some countries showed a decrease up to 26%. Now, ma'am, reports are indicating that during COVID-19 induced lockdown, not only the air quality but water quality in rivers and water bodies is also improving. The stoppage of discharging industrial wastage and other wastes into water led to an apparent positive effect on water quality. India's holiest river Ganga has been one of the most polluted rivers in the world. Waste from domestic and industrial setups along the banks of this river cost the government in millions without any success. According to the real-time water analysis of the Central Pollution Board Control Board of India, and reports of Dr. Mishra, an IIT professor in Banaras Hindu University, a 40 to 50% improvement has been observed in the water quality of the Ganga River. The parameters monitored online were dissolved oxygen, a biochemical oxygen demand less than 2, and total coliform, that is, and pH value. Indian Institute of Technology, Rokri, has reported that the water of Ganga River has become fit for drinking after decades. Not just the Ganga, but its sister river, the Yamuna, has been improved, as well as dissolved oxygen DO has been recorded 2.3 to 4.8 ml. In Yamuna, which was considered null in 2019, lockdown has been able to achieve what the governments could not for decades achieved. Clean rivers and other water bodies have a significant positive effect on aquatic life. Many species are returning to their natural habitats since induction of the lockdown. Mobility has been wedged all over the world during COVID-19 lockdown. All modes of mobility like public transport, micro-mobility, and individual auto-communicating have seen a dramatic diminution across the globe. Public transport has been reduced in many countries, and up to 95% decline in users has been reported by many transport authorities. So far as COVID-19 community mobility reports, which use anonymous aggregated geolocation data from mobile phones to chat moment trends over several weeks, provide perceptions into change in mobility patterns. These reports illustrate the trends in moments in most busy places, including workplaces, markets, parks, places of residences, entertaining venues, and palaces, etc. The data collected from the mobile phones of people by this community depicts that people have reduced their movement after the COVID-19 pandemic. Community mobility reports decrease in mobility has been observed across the globe, especially in countries such as Italy, USA, Germany, UK, Canada, China, India, and South Arabia. According to the data from the TomTom Traffic Index, which provides detailed insights on live the negative impacts from the pandemic cannot be ignored. The COVID-19 crisis has presented an extraordinary situation which substantially environmental gain. The positive impacts on global environment and planetary health that the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown brought about are noteworthy. COVID-19 pandemic is the first and the foremost a global health emergency with severe consequences on health and economy, but it has also brought positive environmental effects that may serve as an example and inspiration for environment during the crisis. There are positive indications from all over the world that COVID-19 induced lockdown has improved environmental conditions, including air and water quality, and causes a significant concurrent reduction in NO2 CO concentration, which resulted in a significant increase in O3 concentration. This recovery of lost environment is an indicator that the environmental degradation caused by human is reversible. In a period of just 2 to 3 months, recovery of nature is being witnessed by everyone. This is a signal for us to understand and react. Government and policymakers must take necessary steps so that this healing process does not become a temporary one. There is a need for rigorous study on the effect of implementation of such short-term lockdowns as an alternative measure for pollution reduction and its effect on economy environment during the crisis. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Congratulations, Hafizullah. You have taken the positive side of COVID-19 pandemic and restricted situation.
Thank you.
And you have taken a good attempt on detailed report.
Thank you, ma'am. So nice, sir.
And as well as statistical analysis of reduction, concrete reduction in air, conservation of natural resources,
Yes, ma'am.
and water quality. And I appreciate your effort. Congratulations. Is there
you,
any
ma'am.
question? Is there any question from the audience side? No questions posted in the chat box too. Okay. Okay. Abdullah, congratulations.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you for your presentation. Okay.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
So the next presenter, Dr. Ponneri Lakshmi.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yeah, good afternoon. Take 10 minutes for your presentation.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And I
Okay,
would like
you can
to
continue.
present the PPT.
Yeah, you present your PPT.
Today, Lord. No problem. Yes. Thank you. That's it. Today, my topic of presentation is enhancing presentation skills of engineering students using Vorai mobile app. And English language teaching has been undergoing a consistent modification with the rapid advancement of technology and its use in English classrooms. The present-day language teaching focuses on the need for effective communication skills to prepare students to study abroad, to get jobs in multinational companies, and to use the opportunities available through media and the internet. In this context, using mobile apps to enhance the public speaking skills and presentation skills of students become relevant. Oratory is an ancient art, and humans have been studying it for centuries. How to improve the public speaking skills and presentation skills of the students is a topic that has been extensively researched. In the research, the vital aspect of learning these skills are practice and feedback. But all students are not rich enough to afford personal tutors to provide them feedback. In the class, the time for presentations is limited and it is not feasible for the teacher to give individual feedback covering all aspects of presentation. Professional presentations represent an important and common method of disseminating information. Professional presentations can be exceedingly anxiety-inducing. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Am I
You are
audible?
audible. Yes, you are audible. You please continue.
Thank you, thank you. So the common method of disseminating information. Professional presentations can be exceedingly anxiety-inducing events. Thus, in this paper, I would like to provide helpful guidelines to help the students, beginning researchers and scholars, to refine their presentation skills. A detailed information regarding the components of a quality professional presentation for a variety of presentation media and audience types, design principles for slideshow presentations, and general dress and demeanor guidelines. So, for every presentation, the first and foremost thing is a few questions to ask about the audience. All the presenters, regardless of who is in the audience, should introduce themselves, explain why they are there, and share their aims and presentations, and manage the audience expectations of the presentation. So, they have to ask questions. Who are they? How many will there be? What is their background? And what is the relevant knowledge or experience they have? And what type of presentation to give is also an important aspect. For that, they have to decide on the type of presentation, whether it is informative, demonstrative, persuasive, or decision making. So a few questions that they themselves ask are, what is the main aim of the presentation? What do you expect from your audience during the presentation? What do you want the audience to learn or remember from the presentation? What do you hope the audience will do at the end or after your presentation as a result of listening to you? So this is the planning for preparation, and the preparation for the presentation is, it starts after establishing the purpose and main topic of the presentation, the considering audience, setting the situation. The next step is to gather information and organizing it so that it can be interesting. What information is needed is depending upon the presentation that we are doing. So, dates of important events, facts and figures relevant to the topic, results or analysis of research, expert opinions, and what is already happening in that specific field. So these are the structures of presentation. And then the real presentation in the delivery, first of all, it comes introduction. It is the chance for us to capture the interest of the audience. So it is also vital that our introduction should be upbeating and engaging. And then the main content should be presented. This is the most important part of our presentation, the section where you make your presentations and how to pursue or how to teach or how to inform the audience in the best of our ability. And the conclusion is also the summary of the main points and a reflection back on the aim that was stated in the introduction. So this is one opportunity to make a positive, lasting impression. So make sure that our conclusion is delivered confidently. And there are so many points that need to be considered. There are handouts. For example, while delivering a presentation, should we give handouts or should we not give handouts? The type of appropriate handouts across the presentation types also varies. Often it is difficult to anticipate the number of people who will attend the session. So a general recommendation is 15 to 25 copies is probably sufficient in most occasions. Sometimes audience may request for the entire paper. At that time, we can gather their mail IDs and the paper can be delivered through email. If a slideshow is presented during a paper session, it is appropriate, although not necessary, to provide the audience with a handout of the slides in addition to the printed copy of the conference paper. Presenters should avoid handouts that they have too many slides per page, making the text unreadable and thus nullifying the purpose of handout. Furthermore, the handouts need not have all the information on the entire slide presentation. And consequently, a presenter who has one page of handout document the highlights of a study might have a distinct advantage over presenters who do not have such handout also. And then, once a decision has been made regarding the type of handout, the next decision is when to provide the handout to the audience. Is it before, during, or after the presentation? The most common scenario is to provide the handout before the presentation. In this way, the distraction of distributing the handout while presenting is removed. Unfortunately, people might read the handout instead of listening to the presentation. A good technique then is to direct audience purposefully to a specific component of the handout so that their curiosity can be satisfied. There are so many tools people can use for their oral presentation. It is the use of presentation software such as MS PowerPoint, Corel Presentations, Apple Keynote, OpenOffice Impress, or Lotus Freelance. Usually, PowerPoint presentation appears to be very dominative because it is reported that 95% of the people use MS PowerPoint presentations. And then, how to design a presentation slideshow? Before the background design, the font type, or even the font size is discussed, the most important part of the presentation is content. It needs to be emphasized. No software tool can transform poorly organized, disconnected ideas into cogent ideas. The presentation is not what is on the PowerPoint slides, rather the presentation involves speaking to and interacting with audience members about the essence of the paper. Accordingly, before developing PowerPoint slides, presenters need to take the time to reflect upon 2 or 3 major points that must be communicated. So multiple bright colors or excessive use of multiple images in the background to draw attention towards the background. So the focus should be on the content of the slides. Thus, the color selected for the slides allow for the maximum visibility of the text and the images, which are the foreground of the presentation. How our text should be. Multiple rules have been created to provide guidance on how many words or bullets should be on a slide. There are several authors who recommend not more than 3 bullets. If the 5 words are less, that means a maximum of 15 words per slide. A slide contains more than 75 words, then it has become a document. Unfortunately, no consistency exists in recommending font size either, whereas some authors recommend a minimum font size of 30. So, a larger or smaller font size best, which is best? At least 2 reasons exist to choose to use a larger font size. A larger font size is more easily read by the audience, and a larger font size forces the presenter to be more selective with what text is chosen to be included on the slide. Visual information. One of the greatest advantages that slideshow have over plain text is the ability to provide visual information. If a visual aid does not help convey the content of the message, this probably does not need to be included. Visual information can come in the form of maps, diagrams, drawings, photographs, images, animations, videos, maps, and they serve a reference point to the audience. Videos also can have a demonstrable impact on audience. How to display the data? Part of the content of presenter's message requires the presentation of a graph or a table. Presenters should keep in mind that a graph or table projected onto the screen may not necessarily be the same graph or table that's given in a paper. In a paper, readers have time to study the graph or a table. In a slideshow, more simplified version of the graph that highlights the most salient features of the graph is presented. And another important aspect of presentation is delivery. Speech, posture, facial expressions, movements are the means by which a presentation is conveyed. A speaker can communicate energy and passion, or nervousness or self-doubt. To project a confident disposition, a presenter should stand straight but relaxed and avoid fidgeting. Movement should be purposeful, not distracting. Throughout the presentation, eye contact with the audience should be maintained. Unfortunately, maintaining appropriate eye contact was not the case for 78% of the presenters. The speaker's voice should project a confident but friendly tone, but varying voice pitch and loudness, a presenter can help maintain audience attention. Sometimes a microphone is provided, but often it's not provided. It can be quite annoying not to be able to hear a speaker or only to hear parts of the presentation. Thus, presenters should make sure that they project their voices. When people become nervous, they tend to speak more rapidly. Therefore, another important component of good delivery is to know when to slow down. Fillers such as ah, like, well, these kind of fillers should be avoided. It is appropriate to pause such as when transitioning from one point to the next for emphasis or simply to allow the audience reflection time. Not to depend on technology. That's what is happening now. I am trying to show my slides, but I am not able to. The idiom, technology is great when it works. It hints the inevitable failure of technology. It is important to have a backup plan just in case. Computers, jump drives, and projectors all are prone to failure. However, preparing for the unexpected ensures that the presentation can proceed seamlessly even when technology fails. Accordingly, a presenter must be prepared to present without the use of technology. A printed copy of presenter notes is a practical asset. Handouts become an even more important resource in the absence of either visual aids. If the unexpected does happen, consider it's an opportunity to connect more closely to the audience. Be flexible and have fun. What to wear? This is an important aspect because impressions are very important. Generally, business attire is appropriate for conference presentation or whatever the presentation it be. Ways to placate the anxiety monster. I have given several presentations, but still, when it is the time of presentations, I feel butterflies in my tummy. So, cold feet and sweaty palms are the other feelings we certainly have while presenting. The main antidote for anxiety is preparation. It is critical to know that the content of the presentation really well. Therefore, practice is also imperative. The content should be well organized. Even the best of topics, if not well organized, cannot be effectively communicated. Some presenters practice in front of a mirror, but a better option might be to practice in front of a real audience who will evaluate the presentation. So, what is the summary for the effective presentations? Some persons argue that the beginning is the most important, and some say you can establish the rapport while you're giving the introduction. Yet, the ending of a presentation is also important. Indeed, some persons argue the beginning and the end are equally important. Finally, although we have to set some guidelines and thumb rules to assist the novice presenters to improve their presentation skills, I just wanted to emphasize that these guidelines are not unbreakable laws. Students in particular have been known to fixate on the rigid application of the presentation rules, but there is contextual flexibility. Though we provide general checklists for the professional presentations as a tool to assist the beginning researchers in preparing for a presentation, we want to emphasize that these statements are only general guidelines. That is important not only to be flexible, but also to enjoy the experience. Our college is situated in a rural area, so it's not easy for the students to afford a tutor to give them feedback. And the time is very much limited when we give presentations in our classrooms. So we started using an app called Orai. Orai can be just as effective as public speaking coach can be with its voice recognition technology. After reading aloud several written prompts, the app will provide comments on the performance. These range from clarity and pace to vocal energy and the use of filler words. Orai is undoubtedly a handy tool to improve the public speaking and presentation skills of our students. So it has recording abilities. With this app, speeches can be live recorded. These recordings will then be analyzed by the app itself and feedback will be given, such as filler words. This app actually captures how many filler words that we have used, such as so, etc. And this app records our tempo. After analyzing the recorded speech, the app will let us know how fast or slow the presentation was. And it also gives us the clarity. The Orai app will show which parts of our speech need improvement in clarity. And the results are the
Dr.
pilots.
Lakshmi?
Yes, ma'am.
So you can conclude.
Yeah, thank you. I'll conclude.
Time is up.
Yes. When asking the students about the similarities between Orai app and the feedback received in previous sessions by the tutors and peers, All the students mentioned the correct use of pauses while presenting is the feedback tutors failed to give, whereas the app gave them the exact feedback. 12 of them also mentioned the use of gestures. 40 students mentioned that previously they received the feedback of not even enough eye contact to the audience by their tutors and peers, and that is the aspect which is missing in the Voraya app feedback. 53 students commented that receiving immediate feedback by the app makes it much more easy to identify and correct their behavior. 23 students mentioned that Voraya app gave feedback regarding the phonetic pauses while peers and tutors did not. 5 students mentioned a contradiction between the feedbacks regarding the use of voice. Peers and tutors in previous presentation told the participant to speak louder, and during the training sessions, the Voraya app told the participants to speak softer. So we have used this Voraya app to make our students practice presentations, and the results are amazing. With this, I thank the presenters for giving me an opportunity. And I am extremely sorry for the technology failure. I'm not able to give slide presentation.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lakshmi.
Thank you, ma'am.
Your topic is enhancing presentation skills of engineering students. Is it?
Engineering. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Why you have taken engineering students alone? The
Because
topic, but you have given an elaborate presentation to enhance presentation for all the students, for all the public speakers. But your title has a limitation like engineering students. Why?
like when I started, I thought it is my students I am going to give presentation skills. Maybe that is the reason I put the title there. But later on, I realized that presentation skills are quite common. It can be useful by any.
Yeah,
They are
not
useful
only
for
for
anybody,
students.
not only for students. Though my
Students.
concentration is students using Voraya.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you,
So,
ma'am.
okay. Besides that, your presentation is very elaborate and described the tools and techniques and even the importance of PPT. Thank you and congratulations. Is there any question from the audience level? Hope I don't find any questions. And thank you, Dr. Lakshmi.
Thank you.
And I invite Monica Gautam for her presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. I've
Monica
just shared.
Gautam is from
Yes, I'm here,
Amity.
ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
You're
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you
from.
so
Okay.
much.
Okay. You
I'm
can
just sharing
present.
my presentation.
Yeah. You can. You can.
Yes, ma'am. I'm
Only.
sharing.
You share.
Okay. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, it's visible. You can
But I'm not
continue.
able to put it on slideshow. I don't know why. So I think I'll continue like this only. Thank you so
Sure.
much for giving me this opportunity. My topic is impact of internet linked digital devices on language usage and communication skills of children and adolescents. And I am Monica Gautam, Assistant Professor, Amity Institute of Education, Amity University, Uttar Pradesh. In today's time, we know communication is exchanging of information and exchanging of feelings, emotions with others. And nowadays, this is being done on the social media platform like Twitter, WhatsApp, Facebook. We all are connected on these devices, and these devices are very important for us. I think in today's time, we all are using technology. We all are using these social media groups for communication. If we come to the impact of these interlinked devices, definitely they have brought greater connectivity with people. We are able to connect with people from all over the world. In fact, we all know that it has given us the opportunity to connect with our friends whom we had not met for so many years. So it's a wonderful platform to connect with people. No doubt, it provides a lot of information and updated information also. So we have access to researches that are being done in different parts of the world. We have access to different types of reading material. There are so many e-books available, e-content available, so many videos which can be seen and which can definitely help us to enhance our knowledge. In addition to that, we also get an opportunity to share and collaborate. So for example, this particular conference that is going on, I'm in North India, this conference is in South India, and a wonderful opportunity to connect and present. So it definitely provides a wonderful opportunity for us to connect with different people, to share and collaborate. In addition to that, we can also learn some new language. We can learn new words. We know we can go online, and there are so many apps and softwares available which help us to learn any new language, to understand the meaning of words. If we are not able to understand the pronunciation of some words, then we also have the opportunity to go online and see what is the correct pronunciation of words. I personally have learned the pronunciation of some words by going online and searching for them. We also learn what are the correct spellings, and we are also able to identify the correct spelling of different words. So there is a lot of positive impact of these internet-linked devices. But as we know that these positive things are accompanied with some negative impact also. There's a new term that has come, and that is textism. And basically, textism is a word which implies that the use of abbreviations and other techniques for writing the messages, for writing the SMS, and circulating it among friends, relatives, and acquaintances. So we know that nowadays children have started using a lot of abbreviations and acronyms like LOL, laugh out loudly. Then we have by the BTW, by the way. So many abbreviations and short forms and acronyms have started being circulated in the social media. In addition to that, words are also being distorted. So someone, SOMEONE, becomes SUM1. Tomorrow becomes 2MORO. Night, NIGHT, has been distorted and the spelling has become NITE. Similarly, a simple word like life, LIFE, and children prefer to write it as LYFE. And a very significant part is that it's not only in the social media that the children are using this language. It is being used in their assignments, in their examinations also. In fact, when I've been also evaluating copies, you do come across children who use such short forms in their assignments and the examinations also. Besides this, there's a tendency for the children to do this, not because it is correct or they feel that it's wrong, but because it is a kind of a style statement. Everybody wants to follow the bandwagon, and it's become a style where, they want to look stylish, that, okay, we use such short forms. Besides this, the language that the children have started using, it is not following the rules of the language. There are errors in spellings, and sometimes these errors are being done intentionally. For example, like the example I gave of life. Now, LIFE and LYFE, the number of letters are the same, but it becomes a style to write it as LYFE. So sometimes this error is being done purposefully also. Besides this, the children have started using a language which is like a telegraphic language, where they avoid using articles. There's reduction of articles and punctuation marks in the sentences, but the meaning of the sentence becomes clear. So we see that there are grammatical errors. We see that the vocabulary of children is also not very good, because gradually the tendency of children to read books, the interest that used to be there for reading the books, is not there. Earlier, we know that whenever we were studying, whenever we came across a new book, we were told to refer to a dictionary. So we used to take out a dictionary and we used to find the meaning of the word. But now, children have the tendency that when they come across any word, they immediately Google it, they immediately write it, and it is checked. Now, Gradually, because of the poor reading habits, the children have a lesser or reduced vocabulary. And all this is actually impacting their writing of compositions also. The quality of compositions is gradually being impacted also. And because of the excessive use of typing, and especially in the corona period, the children switched on to the online mode. There also, because they were typing, they were making presentations where they were typing, they were sending the soft copies of the presentations and assignments. They became a greater use of typing. And now when these children have come back, I myself personally observe this, that they show a lot of disinterest in writing with pen and pencil. In fact, sometimes you need to tell them during the lecture, okay, take out your registers and start writing. Okay. Sometimes you will see that they'll take out their mobiles and they're writing on the notes. So the tendency, the interest in writing with a pen and pencil is also gradually decreasing. Then, because of the habit of texting, they find it more convenient to text. They find it very, very convenient to type. So what happens that they quickly type it on their mobiles or the laptop, and the communication with the real people around us, that is being affected. I mean, there are so many instances where people, closely connected people, prefer to send text messages instead of actually talking face to face. So there's lesser social interaction, and this definitely impacts the development of the social skills in the children. And another impact of these internet devices has been that a lot of information is available online, but our span of attention has been reduced. We see a lot of material, but we rarely read it with a lot of attention. We just kind of skim through it or just glance through it. So our span of attention, and this has been proved by studies, has been greatly reduced. One researcher, Waslow, has said he has totally disapproved of texting, and he has said that it is like the origin of language has been corrupted, or the spelling, there has been a spelling poverty in the writing that is being done by the youth of today. Another impact is that we get easily distracted. So if our mobile is nearby and we are trying to write something, we are trying to read something, in between there is a tendency to immediately see what is there in our mobile. We immediately want to refer to the WhatsApp. In between, we are reading something and we are immediately referring to seeing our mobile to see the status update. So we are being distracted from the learning. And because there's too much of texting, there's too much of interaction through the social media, written platform, the speaking skills are definitely being affected. Nowadays, we see children, when they are writing, the habits that we have, that there had to be a proper punctuation, a proper tense had to be there, a proper capital letter for the start of the sentence, that is also being greatly impacted because they write it in a very routine manner, which they are doing it without paying attention to its correctness. Recently, I went to through a study, and in that study, the researchers have mentioned that the students themselves have accepted that they have developed the habit of writing the numerical 2 instead of PO. And instead of writing A and D, they have developed the habit of writing N. And they said that it comes naturally to us. So even when we are giving an exam or writing an assignment, it just happens automatically. And they said that we do not like to write the complete sentence or the complete words because it's not there in our habit. And they say that we do not find it convenient to write, and it just automatically comes when we are writing the answers. No doubt, the internet technology, the internet linked devices are very useful for us. We are in an age where we just cannot stay away from them. But as teachers, it is high time that we paid attention to these things and ensured that the language development of the children is not negatively affected. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Thank you, Monica. So you have Given how the internet has affected the language usage and the communication, not only in the students community and even to the adolescents. So, what are the
Yes.
measures we can carry out to improve the usage of language and communication in the students level? You
Okay.
have it? Okay. The measures,
Yes, ma'am.
the measures you can tell.
Okay, the measures, it will not going to be easy, and especially because of the last 2 years where the parents who themselves were keeping the children away from the mobiles and laptops, they themselves had to give the mobile and the laptop to the children for their studies. So the circumstances were such. But now that it is high time that gradually a habit has to be developed where the children have to be told that you need to spend this much of time in reading. Earlier, we used to have a library period, and in that library period, everybody was reading those books, and then the teacher used to ask questions on based on that, or we were told to read any book at home, and then the teacher used to ask questions based on that. One, we need to develop the reading habits of books. Secondly, maybe because the parents are busy, maybe because of a number of reasons, the addiction to these mobiles and laptops has definitely increased. So, as adults, we ourselves, first of all, have to keep ourselves away from this addiction and then spend more time with our children so that they are also interacting, they are speaking, they are also interacting. We cannot always blame the children. In many instances, the adults themselves are busy with their mobiles and their office work. Then, thirdly, we have to develop a system where incomplete words, incomplete sentences have to be brought to the notice of the children, and you need to tell them that, okay, you're not writing the complete sentence, you're not writing the correct spelling, your marks will be deducted. So, somewhere over a period of time, we gradually need to work in this area because it is much, much required. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any
Excuse me,
questions
ma'am.
from yes?
Ma'am, is this technical session number 6 going on?
Number 5 is going on. Number 5.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, Monica, thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you so
your.
much, ma'am.